Hi, here's a little bit of a continuation of the work that I've been doing with some CalTopo, interfacing it with Google Earth, and this time we're working with some international maps. So earlier this week, a friend of mine got in touch asking me if I knew of any digital maps or digital map programs uh, for Iceland. And I didn't, but having had quite a few friends lately interested in Iceland, I thought I would do a little research. And sure enough, I found out that Iceland uh, gives you all the map data they have, or at least a lot of it, for free. And so I ended up at this web page right here. And I found some 1 to 250, 1 to 750, which aren't very useful. But here were these 1 to 50,000 maps. And there were some 1 to 20,000 maps up here as well, along with 1 to 100,000 maps. So, I scrolled through, and some of this stuff is in English, or at least I could read some of it. And it was pretty interesting. They had a bunch of different map things. Here's the 1 to 25 here. There's two sections, but there's only about 6 or 7 maps. It's a fairly small amount, but the 1 to 50s cover a fairly sizable chunk of the Iceland. And with a little bit of more work, I found that this kind of map key, that this area right here is all covered by the 1 to 50s. Over on either side here, I believe those are the 1 to 100s. So those maps are not quite as good, and I haven't played with these areas yet. But this friend of mine was interested in this area right here, right around 1817, 1917, 1916, and 1816. This sort of peninsula right here. And what I found is when I downloaded these 1 to 50s, I was given a bunch of files. The two main ones were TIFF files, along with TWF files, TIFF world files. And the TIFF world files were named exactly the same as the TIFF files, and they had the geodata. So if you could combine them, you would create a geotiff. And with a little bit of looking around, I found you could directly download geotiffs into Avenza PDF maps so that it would sync up with your phone, and he would have all these maps in his phone and able to follow the blue dot. It would sync up with the GPS on the phone. The problem was creating the geotiff. And so what I found was an open source GIS program, which I've just started playing with, and it's fairly complex, so this will be a while. But what I found is here, raster, conversion, translate. I could batch load, so I just put the input directory where I had all the maps with the TIFF world files, TWF files. I created a blank or empty folder and selected that as the output directory. And here I just put geotiff and hit OK. And it combined the TWF file with the TIFF file, creating a geotiff. soon as we did that, we were able to upload those maps right into a Venza PDF, which was really nice. So the file that I ended up with, I'll show you here. It's in my navigation folder. Under Iceland, 1 to 50, are all these maps. So once we got them into the phone, I started doing some other things just to kind of play around, see what would happen. I like to just see if I, how route plans would go in, or if I could interface it with Google Earth and those type of things. And what I was able to do with a fair bit of work was to put all the maps into CalTopo, line them up, there we go. Get rid of that line for now. I was able to line them up and get that whole peninsula covered with the 1 to 50. And that allowed me also to scroll. The underlying map wasn't so good. It's basically like an open streets map, this TF Outdoors. But now I have the 1 to 50s, and they're in pretty good resolution. You can see as I bring it up here, I can read everything. It takes a minute to load as I scroll. Pretty much read everything. It's a little, they get a little blurry. I think that's more because of the quality of the photo. But a pretty good rendering of the map. Now, what I did after that is I opened up Google Pro, which I got for free, and found that I could upload, and I have all those maps in one file to cover that peninsula, and I could upload that quite easily into Google Earth. I've got 9 maps to do, so it'll take just a minute or two here. I found scaling because the photos were so big. Google Earth wouldn't take them unless they're scaled. So I just scale, just click scale. Seemed to work the best. I've tried the other ones, and they just didn't go in very well. So the scaling seemed to be the best way to go. Couple more going in nicely. And there should be one more. These all go in by themselves. I didn't have to geolocate them in any way or do anything of that nature. And now these are pretty high quality, but because they're over terrain, you'll notice that at 1 to 50, the contour lines get a little fuzzy. But I can scroll them in and out here. And let's go to the coast here. You can see I can just scroll it in and out, and I can tilt it so I can see the terrain a little bit better, depending on my preferences, and I can get that all the way I like it. And you can see it lines up pretty well. So that was a nice feature. So that way you could see underlying bed surfaces, what the terrain looked like, get a better idea of what's going on underneath the map. So that was really a nice little thing. Then I played around a little bit more with CalTopo, and I found that if I added an object, and let's go to that coast, there's a very nice definitive thing here. And I'm a member of CalTopo. I sort of paid a subscription. I paid the pro subscription for $50. I believe this feature will work with the $20 subscription, and that's $20 a year. It's probably one of the best deals you can get out there. I was flabbergasted at how reasonable the price was. So I would highly recommend you support CalTopo if you're going to be using it. So right here, I'm going to create a line. And I'm just putting it random. It's just in a very, just a spot. And what I'll do here is I'll just go to export, and you'll notice down here it says download network link for automatic updates. And it's a little weird. You got to get rid of the .html. Little bugs with let's go to down. I'm just going to save it to my downloads, and I already had it in there. I've been practicing a little bit, making sure this went pretty smoothly. And you'll see there's this Iceland KML. I have 2 of them in here. I'll get rid of one just to see. I'll do it's the 2 that I want. So I'm going to just click on that. And that should bring up, and this is so cool, it's already in there. So that immediately transferred the line that I drew into Google Earth. So now if I go back to CalTopo, anything I do here will automatically go, any kind of line or anything like that will automatically go into Google Earth. And this was just an interesting part of the interface with Google Earth. Let's see, I can't remember. That was which map? That's 17.2. So that should be 17.3. Oh, there we go. 17.3. There we go. Well, for whatever reason, the map part do weird things sometimes. Ah, there it is. 1816.1 is where I'm working. And then what's cool about this is I can now play with this a little bit. I can do an elevation profile of that particular line. So that's kind of cool. Or I could do an elevation profile of that line now. And so although I don't have the data in CalTopo, the elevation data in CalTopo, I do have it in Google Earth. So this allows me to interface with Google Earth, do that kind of thing. I could just do it on Google Earth. I can do it in CalTopo. The nice thing about CalTopo is if I wanted to keep these lines on there, I can do the print PDF function on CalTopo and put maps on my phone via the PDF function that have the lines in there. So there's a lot of different things you can do. I know this is starting to look a little complex. You don't have to do all these things all the time, but I wanted to show you how the ability to take data from the internet off of just raw data, create the GeoTIFF, put it into your phone directly through iTunes, put it into Google Earth, line it up, put it into CalTopo. Any line I draw on CalTopo, I could put into Google Earth. And so any step that you feel is not important, you don't have to do that. But all those things are available to you, and you can start to see the power of some of these basic tools. And except for the CalTopo, ArcGIS, excuse me, not ArcGIS, QGIS. ArcGIS is actually quite expensive. QGIS is open source software. The Google Earth Pro I was able to get for free from Google Earth. And the CalTopo cost me $50 a year and had all that functionality. So anyway, I hope that was of some interest. And the more you start working with this, the easier it is. It goes pretty quick, and it's I kind of enjoy it. So I hope you enjoyed this little tutorial. Thanks.